International Monetary Fund Managing Director Kristalina Georgievna said that she does not yet have reason to see a breakthrough in negotiations with Lebanon to help resolve the country's economic crisis. Georgieva told the Reuters newsmaker webcast that IMF officials continue to work with Lebanon, but it's unclear whether the country's leaders, stakeholders, and society can unify around reforms needed to stabilize its economy and return it to a growth path. Lebanon is battling a financial crisis regarded as the biggest threat to the country since 1975-1997 wars, with the Lebanese pound losing 75% of its value since October. Iran will send to France next month the black boxes from a Ukrainian passenger jet that Tehran's armed forces mistakenly shot down in January, killing all 176 people on board. French aviation investigators said Iran has requested help with repairing and downloading data from the Chikpet voice recorder and the flight data recorder of the Ukraine International Airlines Flight 752. The Boeing 737 was struck by two missiles and crashed shortly after taking off from Tehran's airport on January 8th. Russian President Vladimir Putin and French counterpart Emmanuel Macron called for a ceasefire in Libya and a return to dialogue, the Kremlin said in a statement following a phone call between the two leaders. Earlier, France, Germany, and Italy called on forces in Libya to cease fighting and for outside parties to stop any interference in a bid to try get political talks back on track. Ties between NATO allies France and Turkey have soared in recent weeks over the Libyan conflict. UN aid agencies said that Syria faces an unprecedented hunger crisis with over 9.3 million people lacking adequate food, while the country's coronavirus outbreak, though apparently controlled for now, could still accelerate. The World Food Programme WFP told a briefing in Geneva that the number of people short of essential foodstuffs had risen by 1.4 million in the past 6 months. Food prices had also soared by more than 200% in less than a year due to the free fall in neighboring Lebanon's economy and COVID-19 lockdown measures in Syria. A court in Denmark found a 40-year-old Norwegian man of Iranian descent guilty of spying for Iran and accessory to attempts to commit murder on Danish soil. The man, who was not identified by the court, collected information about an exiled Iranian in Denmark during the period September 25th to 27th, 2018. The Røkslied City Court west of Copenhagen said it was proven that the information was handed over to a person working for an unnamed Iranian intelligence service. The Lebanese pound toppled to new lows against the dollar on Friday on a parallel market where it has now lost around 80% of its value since October, and a food importer said the currency collapse was hitting imports. The pound has continued to slump despite President Bashir Aoun's pledge on June 16th that the central bank would supply the currency market with dollars to prop it up. Lebanon defaulted on its foreign currency debt in March, citing critically low reserves. An IS militant who encouraged mass murder in Germany has been sentenced to at least 9 years in prison in Britain. Fatah Abdullah had been charged under Britain's terrorism laws with encouraging another person to blow a car into crowds, attack people with a meat cleaver, and detonate bombs with the aim of killing and/or causing serious injury. He pleaded guilty in March to inciting terrorism overseas and engaging in conduct in preparation to assist others to commit terrorist acts. A Turkish court handed down life sentences to 121 people for taking part in the 2016 attempted overthrow of President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. The court in Ankara sentenced 86 suspects to aggravated life imprisonment for attempting. A Turkish court handed down life sentences to 121 people for taking part in the 2016 attempted overthrow of President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. The court in Ankara sentenced 86 suspects to aggravated life imprisonment for attempting to violate the constitution, while 35 individuals were given life sentences for the same crime. An aggravated life sentence has tougher terms of detention. It was brought in to replace the death penalty, which Turkey abolished in 2004 as part of its drive to join the EU. Iraqi security forces raided the headquarters belonging to Kataib Hezbollah militia in southern Baghdad, detaining dozens of its members. The raid was the most brazen action by Iraqi forces against a major Iran-backed militia group in years and targeted the faction, which U.S. officials have accused of firing rockets at bases hosting U.S. troops and other facilities in Iraq. The raid took place after a number of rocket attacks near the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad and other U.S. military sites in the country in recent weeks. The war between the Libyan National Army LNA, commanded by Khalifa Haftar, and Turkey-backed Government of National Accord GNA, headed by Fayez al-Sarraj, appears imminent as Ankara continued its military reinforcements in the North African country. Turkish presidential spokesman Ibrahim Kalin announced Thursday that the GNA was determined to advance on the central cities of Sirte and Al-Jufra, renewing demands that the LNA withdraw from those two areas in order to reach a ceasefire. As the battle loomed large, the LNA reinforced its deployment around oil fields in Sirte, dispatching a special forces unit to secure them. Iraqi Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi pledged to prevent foreign interventions and adventures in Iraq, affirming his government's determination to fight sectarianism. The Prime Minister confirmed that he would not yield to any external blackmailing in his plans to reform Iraq. He revealed that the state treasury had lost between $3 to $4 billion over the control of armed groups of several border crossings. Sudan received $1.8 billion as direct support from countries and institutions participating in the Sudan Partners Conference, held by video link in Berlin at the initiative of Germany and in cooperation with the UN, the European Union, and Khartoum. Meanwhile, European countries, including France and Spain, called for removing Sudan from the list of countries sponsoring terrorism and easing the conditions for obtaining financing from the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund to help Khartoum achieve economic and development reforms. China has a tougher stance than Russia on a U.S. draft resolution that would maintain the arms embargo on Iran indefinitely. The Chinese stance appeared on Wednesday as U.S. Special Representative for Iran Brian Hook and U.S. Ambassador Kelly Craft briefed UN Security Council members on the resolution, said the diplomats. The draft U.S. resolution would ban Iran from supplying, selling, or transferring any arms or related material from its territory after the embargo expires on October 18th. The United States and Europe battle the resurgence of coronavirus cases, with Texas ordering bars to close and warnings mounting worldwide over lifting lockdowns too soon. Britons were told to avoid back beaches, while a major Australian city faced a surge in infections that prompted a warning against the hoarding of toilet roll. But Sweden lashed out at the World Health Organization for listing it among at-risk European countries in a sign of the sensitivities at play as countries try to manage the pandemic. The International Monetary Fund, or the IMF board, approved a one-year $5.2 billion financing package for Egypt to help the country alleviate the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The new funding under a standby arrangement comes on top of $2.8 billion in emergency aid the IMF board approved a month ago, although at the time officials acknowledged that more help would be needed. The IMF noted Cairo had a strong track record of implementing economic reforms under fund-supported programs over the past 4 years, and the new loan will help put it on strong footing for a recovery.